I did everything right and they indicted me. And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We have a stellar lineup for you tonight. We are going to be talking to you about the Trump Religious Liberty Commission. People probably heard about this. It was very controversial. A very brave conservative Catholic. We don't have that many conservatives coming on the show, but a very brave conservative Catholic activist named Carrie Prejean Boller spoke very uncomfortable truths to very uncomfortable powers, and basically dared this commission to say that anti-Zionism was antisemitism. So we interviewed Carrie along with Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, who's a fan fave. We love Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, the wonderful anti-Zionist rabbi, who actually Carrie had invited to be on the commission. And of course, she was denied because the commission only had room for Zionist Jews. And we also spoke to Sameerah Munshi, who was a Muslim American activist who was also on that commission. So that is a really exciting conversation. We got the behind the scenes story about that. And that will be the second segment of the show. But our first segment is equally exciting, and it's so important. And it's a story that is very rarely told with any kind of insight or honesty. And that story is what is happening right now as we speak in Cuba, from the perspective of people who live in Cuba, and also from the perspective of people who don't live in Cuba, but are from Cuba and have relatives in Cuba. And I will introduce those two guests shortly. But before we start, always wanted to remind you that you can and must, for your own sakes, become subscribers of the show. That's a free way to support the show. You just press subscribe and then the bell. That way you don't miss any of our streams, because we do these extra streams quite frequently. And apologies, I had to take off last week because I was under the weather. You could hear it in my voice. So we didn't do one of those extra streams, but we do them quite a bit. So definitely give yourself the gift of being in the know. And to do that, you just go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Sorry, my dog is making a lot of noise and that distracted me. To do that, you just hit subscribe and then you hit the bell. I'm gonna have to take off his collar, I think, because it's like making a jingle noise. So yeah, again, to subscribe, hit subscribe and then the bell. But also, please do like the stream. That's another way to support the show for free. Just give it a thumbs up. And another way to support the show is by becoming Patreon subscribers. And you can do that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And if you pay for $5 a month, that level, then you get extra streams. So for instance, you'll get a full half an hour extra stream interview with Carrie, Boller, and also Sameerah Munshi and Yaakov Shapiro. And you'll get hundreds of hours of extra content. If you can't swing it, then we are still really grateful if you can become supporters at the $1 a month level. So that's just for $12 a year that you get to make the show possible. So again, all of that is at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And we know you're going to want to see the full interview that we did with Carrie, Prejean Boller, Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, and Sameerah Munshi. So I'm going to bring on our first guest for our first segments. And we are so excited. We're actually bringing on one of these guests was last on The Katie Halper Show 4 years ago. And we're very excited to be bringing her back into the fold. She's with the wonderful news outlet Belly of the Beast, which is a US-based news outlet that focuses on stories about Cuba. Her name is Liz Oliva Fernández. She's a Cuban journalist and documentary filmmaker based in Havana, Cuba. She's co-founder of Belly of the Beast, and she presented the award-winning series The War on Cuba and directed the documentaries Uphill on the Hill and Hardliner on the Hudson, reporting on the political and economic forces shaping US-Cuba relations through the lived experiences often missing from mainstream coverage. And Liz has interviewed notable figures including Alice Walker, Elian Gonzalez, and Congressman Jim McGovern. So welcome back to the show, Liz. We're so happy to be joined by you once again.
Oh, thank you, Kathy, for the invitation. It's a pleasure every time.
Of course. And we're also being joined by someone who is originally from Cuba, is now based in Miami, and he is making his Katie Halper Show debut. He's a Cuban American activist who lives in Miami, Florida, and he's part of the Miami Coalition Against the Blockade of Cuba and a member of Puentes de Amor, which is Bridges of Love, an organization that we will talk about shortly. So welcome, Hebel Morales. Hi.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
So, wanted to start off by asking you, Liz, you're in Havana right now. Tell us what the reality is on the ground. Obviously, there's been this intensification of this blockade right now, the major escalation. Trump has cut off fuel from coming to the island. How has this affected people's lives so far? And then I'm going to ask you, Hebel, about how it's affecting the lives of your relatives in Cuba.
Well, if you don't have fuel, you don't have nothing. Everything is getting affected. That's the basic, like transportation, electricity, food. You need fuel and gas for almost everything to maintain whatever country running. So right now, like I think like the situation has been like really stable in the last couple of days. Like of course we have blackouts like now, and for example, the students from university, they were sent home like a few weeks ago, taking classes online. That for me is it's a really big challenge, because how is possible that you're taking classes online? Because when we don't have electricity, we don't have internet working the most of the time. So, and also I think like the most impacted is the healthcare system, because they reduce the attention just urgent care and emergencies, and that's crucial, because I think like the entire healthcare system in Cuba is based on prevention. So a lot of people have a lot of appointments with different doctors, specialties, that they can go and check out whatever is happening with them. And right now everything is paused. uh, and also it's also a challenge for the doctors to go to the hospital, to attend to the hospital, because the public transportations almost disappear. They always now you can see like cars running on the streets of Havana, but they are like a private taxis. They're private, but they're also collective. We have here like we call it almendrones. The fancy are for the tourists are coming. The most older ones are for people who actually live here, and they move around in these almendrones. But the prices of these cars are getting high. Like all the prices are skyrocket right now. But so going just to work represent like a huge amount of money for people who are like a working and for basic salary. And also you need to understand like if you need to do like or transportation or food. So it's been complicated for people just moving around. You can see a lot of electrical vehicles right now, motorbikes, people walking bikes again, like in the 90s. And also like just people just avoiding to moving around and stay in their own neighborhood or whatever. They just can be like going there walking, because the situation is getting critical. So I think like there's a lot of anxiety. Like people doesn't know how long this situation is gonna long. Like the food is getting more expensive. That was already expensive, but now it's getting really expensive. And I think like people are like Cubans has been doing the last couple of decades. They are just trying to adjust their life and trying to survive as much as they can.
Yeah. And well, thank you for sharing that. And I have tons more questions. But Hebel, what is your father and your other relatives in Cuba? What are they saying? And then I also want to know from you what made you leave Cuba. Oops, he's muted. Let me unmute.
The anxiety is it's not only in Cuba, it's also the family members that live outside Cuba. For example, we have to see things also from this side of the world. Everybody knows that we are to support our families, whatever they are. And when there's a crisis in Cuba, then we have to help them. And then we have to kind of like we suffer with them. We suffer with what is happening in the country. But one of the things that I wanted to bring with my visit to your show today is I'm calling to the American people to support the Cuban families. You cannot see this as just a Cuban problem or Cuban American problems in the United States. We can help Cubans, and we have to speak up. We have to do what it takes to help the people in Cuba. We're not enemies. Cuba is not a threat to the United States. We are neighbors. We need to support each other. And we need to call this to what it is. This is a crime. What my homeland is doing to my birth country is a crime.
You mean what the United States is doing to Cuba? That's
What the
you,
United States is doing to Cuba,
just to clarify,
it is a crime. I mean, I would like to tell an American person, be in the place of someone right now. There's a lot of kids, sick people in Cuba that they need cancer treatment. They have to move from the western part of the country to the big hospitals in Havana. All that transportation, all the attention that they need is supported by the government. And whether you like it or not, we need to help them. And so now Cuba has to ration because, as we know, energy is very important. Oil is important to Cuba, not only for transportation, but give treatments, hospitals. I mean, all these years, right? We've been through a blockade for all this, how many, more than 65 years now. But hospitals, that's what is keeping people alive in our country, our little island. So when the situation gets bad there, so everything gets expensive, and not only for them, but also for us. We have to send them more money. We have to be able to, if we have to fly, we may have to send them more medicines, and all those products. And the just to send them there, it's going to get more expensive for us as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to go back a little bit. I grew up in Cuba through the special period. So this is to me like kind of like, oh my God, this is like a special period all over again. And I know that maybe there's a little differences here and
And the
there.
special period is right after the Soviet Union collapse, correct?
Correct. That was about 1991, 92. Those were the worst years. I mean, the beginning of the special period, I think people started to like, learning how to manage the situation. But I left in 1999. And I try to help my family as much as I can. But I guess what I'm asking to the American people, there's a lot of Americans that have traveled to Cuba in the last several years. Please, you can do something. You may have a number, someone that you met in Cuba, someone that you say in their homes. Give them a call, send them a message, ask them if they're okay, if they need anything. Get in touch with one of the agencies that send medicines and packages to Cuba. Give them a hand. At the end of the day, I mean, we're all neighbors. And I think this is the time to step up and to do something and help our Cuban families. Don't do it for, and I guess what I was thinking yesterday is Americans are conditioned to hate Cuba. And when you hate Cuba, you're going to start hating the people. And you have to separate those things. Yeah. We need your help. They need us. And so we have to come up together. And one of the ways to support as well, this Sunday, we do have a protest at the Miami International Airport and against the oil blockade of Cuba and the blockade in general, the embargo, blockade, whatever you want to call it. But so we're going to do a protest this Sunday, 1 p.m. at the Freedom Plaza inside the Miami International Airport. Please, if you're in the Miami area, if you happen to pass by and join us and support our Cuban families,
Great.
We need you.
And we'll put a link to that. And I just realized because of the time limitations, we started late, and I realized Liz doesn't have a lot of time. Is it okay if we pivot to Liz? Can you stay on after Liz leaves, Hebel? So that
Yes, I can.
So don't feel like I'm ignoring you. It's just that because Liz has an out, and there's a blackout there, so it's harder to juggle. So, but thank you for what you said, and we will return to you also. So, Liz, tell us how this compares to the other, periods that you've faced, because Hebel just mentioned the special period. How different is this? How much of this is a departure? And kind of more generally, this is a show we often emphasize how the Democrats and Republicans on so many issues are way too similar, and there should be much bigger differences between them than there are. But what was there a real significant difference between Trump and Obama, and then Obama and Biden, or Biden and Trump?
Well, I was laughing because Hebel was saying like a special period, and I just reminded that Cuba love euphemism. We call it special
Oh, yeah.
period and just economic
It is
crisis.
such a great euphemism. It is.
And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and also like first, I think like if people need to understand, I was born in crisis, I was raised in crisis, and I spent my whole life living in crisis, economic crisis and scarcity. So of course that we have like a say that we say here in Cuba, we say we were happy and we didn't know that we were happy, because even in the moments that we have like a lot of scarcity and crisis, economic crisis in Cuba, we have like the basic things, like we have a really good healthcare system, we have a really good education system, and we have like a basic food. Like if you ask any Cubans about what is your favorite food, they're gonna say white rice and egg, like a fried egg, plantains and avocado. That sounds like that's not fancy. That's basic food that people in Cuba, basic Cubans, normal are eating. So every time that I'm eating that, it reminds me to my childhood that was in the 90s, in the middle of a special period / economic crisis,
Right.
that the worst that Cuba has lived in that moment. What is the difference with now? I think like sanctions now are more strained. They are trying to screw Cuba as they didn't intend before. They are proving, for example, the activation Title III, that was like just canceled, the same suspended at the same time that it was like a name, like it became a law. And so for the first time, like I'm not saying for the first time, since the Trump first term, I think like they have implemented sanctions that are really targeting the key main source of income to Cuba in order to asphyxiate the Cuban people. I would say like the difference between Trump and Obama is huge. Not because Obama did so much, it's just Obama did a little bit.
Right.
It is just open a little window to people in the United States have like normal relations. And you can see all the US companies that were arriving to Cuba, from Marriott, Google, Airbnb, Expedia, whatever, cruise ships from around the world, they were actually wants to come to Cuba. And you can see the difference. What is the difference? Like people for the first time, my friends, weren't talking about leaving Cuba. They were talking about, I have a future here. I can stay here. I can do whatever I want here in my own country. I don't have the necessity to leave for the first time in my entire existence. And so people from the United States, like and I was talking with another journalist at the time, says like Cuba was the markets that was growing faster for Airbnb in the war, and
Oh, wow.
it was, of course, because people actually wants to have the opportunity to come to Cuba. They saw, oh, Obama went to Cuba, so it's okay if I'm going to Cuba.
Right.
And for the first time with Trump, they just like erase whatever Obama did with intention and goes beyond that. I think like they perfection the sanctions in a way that actually affecting the people in Cuba. I don't see any difference between Trump and Biden. For me, it's Trump Biden policy on Cuba because, okay, Trump have a first term and it reinforcement the sanctions on Cuba, and they put Cuba in the state sponsor of terrorism list, that there was a death sentence to Cuba. And then Biden just maintained the thing. So it's also his policy. I'm sorry, like on Cuba, they are both the same people. I don't know what are the reasons, but are the same people. In fact, during Biden was like the COVID-19 pandemic in the world, and a lot of people call on Biden, please release the sanctions on Cuba. They are all trying to face a pandemic, and they don't have like resources. You need to release the sanctions for a while in order them to be able to manage the pandemic in a better way, and they don't do it. They don't care. So
Right.
for me,
He
there's
did
not
it
a
for like
difference.
a day at the very end. I mean, it was like the day before. That was almost worse than not doing
I need
anything
to
at all.
say bullshit.
I know.
I'm so
Why did he
sorry.
do that? That was just rubbing in that he could have done it and chose not to.
That's bullshit. For me, that doesn't make any sense, because also you need to understand that for law, he actually like have a value, like I don't know, like entrar en vigor, like that's the way that you subscribe a law and you
Take
have to
effect.
wait a period of time. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's 45 days in order to whatever they did have actually effective. And just so three days before just Trump put it back. So
yeah. Did he
that's
forget?
for me. That's like I don't like. I was so mad. It's like, what are you doing, dude? What's wrong with you, dude? Like, why are you trying to say that what you're not doing nothing? This is not gonna change your past 4 years. This is not gonna change nothing. I don't know what you're trying to prove. That's and also it's Biden. Biden was like a vice president when Obama did the normalization process, so he knows. But
and the same thing with Iran. He did the same thing. Everyone thought he was going to return the nuclear deal, and also Cuba.
Yeah, the same is like I don't see the difference, Katie, and that's
You can call me Kathy. I like Kathy.
Because that Cuban side, like Kathy. So I don't see actually the difference between a Democrat and Republican when it's about Cuba, when it's U.S. policy on Cuba. I think like the only section was Obama during the last term, and also I don't think that the goal changed. The goal was the same. We need to overthrow the Cuban government, but we need to change the strategy. And in my opinion, Obama's strategy is more dangerous than Trump's
strategy. So you thought that Obama also wanted to overthrow, but through normalization?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Like economical power is going to have in some moment political power. That's the thing. And also like you are expecting that entire country just, like invade like Cuba with all the desires and all the culture and nothing affecting Cuba. What is happening with the countries where US is sending tourism? Like complicated. But I rather that politics. I rather that policy instead of this one. Even when I consider that it is more dangerous, because people in Cuba was completely seduced by Obama. They say, I want to Obama's so great. I love her. I love him. Why? Because the way he talks, he knows how to talk. Well, you're not about that. So like people don't see faults in Obama. It's like, this is magical. He wants to understand Cuba. He mixed with the Cuban. He just appears in the most popular Cuban comedy show. And he was performance like playing dominoes. It's like, because people are not used to that. We weren't born with ideas like the US government wants to hurt us. And this new guy that is just handsome and they have like so well spoken is want to seduce us. Like, wait. So my mom was crazy about Obama. Like, he needs to be the next president of Cuba.
And also the first black president, right?
Yeah.
The first black president of the United States, right? So
well, in years. So I think like the entire policy works, and this is like a policy that is really like hardliner policy on Cuba. And I think like the difference for me as a Cuban, but also as a journalist, is just the way that they talk about this. Like they say now, like, well, if you have to suffer, if your mom has to suffer, if your child has to suffer, this is the price that we need to pay in order to get freedom, a free Cuba Libre, whatever you want. And it's like, wait, who are paying the price now? Like, you say my entire life and my entire existence that the blockade and the sanctions don't affect us, and now you want us to pay the price? What happened? And I think that that's the narrative, the change. This is necessary. This is mandatory. This is the things that we need to, in order to get whatever we need in the future. And Hebel can talk more about that. But then they said, well, it's the Cuban government. They have an entire campaign going around saying, like, the situation in Cuba is so bad. The government is so bad. And no one is mentioned the sanctions. It's like, it's hypocritical. And also it's like, it's a lot of double standard there, but that's nothing new when we need to talk about US policy around the world.
Right. Well, I also want to ask you about something that's so fascinating, because everyone knows how much this harms Cuba, but it also harms other countries. And obviously all the countries that are, that face secondary sanctions, right? So it's not just that the United States has sanctions against Cuba, but it will put sanctions against other countries for dealing with or trading with Cuba. But I heard you say something fascinating during an interview about a doctor, a conservative Republican doctor you were speaking with, who is trying to get like Alzheimer's medication for his patients. Can you talk about that, Liz?
Yeah, well, you can turn Belly of the Beast because it's a video that is coming in at the end of this week.
Right.
He's a doctor from the United States. He wants to, um, like, he knows about a medicine that Cuba has about Alzheimer. Belly of the Beast did an entire documentary. The name is Teases. It's coming in the next months. That is the whole story about how Cuba produced one medication that is real effective and with people with Alzheimer. This guy just hear about this and they just want to treat their own patients with this medicine, but because it's a sanctions, it's illegal for Cuba to have to the United States people to have access to this medication, and this is not their only medication, so they need to travel to Cuba in order to get the medication and then come back to the United States. Imagine if they cut flights.
Yeah.
Like the entire situation. But we're talking about this last thing, but we need to talk about the whole thing, like, because there is a lot of collaboration.
That's just such a perfect metaphor. Sorry, let me just if I can say one thing. It is just the perfect metaphor, right? Because literally Alzheimer's is a disease that is so painful for people, not just the people who have it, but for their loved ones. And the idea that because of political games, like there are barriers to accessing the most cutting edge treatment to Alzheimer's because Marco Rubio has a weird fetish and wants to like rule Cuba, or because this lobby or that lobby. I mean, this is something this is such a perfect example because it's why Americans, everyone obviously, but should be up in arms about the sanctions. Because I mean, I care about the lives of Cuban people. I don't want any suffering to happen. But even people who just care about their own like self-interest in the immediate short term should be upset about this. Sorry, not
Yeah,
to
no. That's good.
Yeah.
This is a conversation. I don't want to be a monologue or something
no.
like that. But also, it's like we need to be like we need to stay focused. It's not just Marco Rubio. It's just whatever it is. Like imagine like the dangers that also Cuba, exactly the dangers that Cuba represents for big pharmas. Like how much is this getting access to this medication? How much? You're saying that you can have it for like what is, and also like Cuba has been producing medicine for lung cancer, from people who are diabetes, food.
You
so
guys
there is a lot of
the meningitis vaccine, I think, right? Was that the
there is a lot of things that have been producing in Cuba. Like imagine in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic with zero funds, with zero tourism, that is one of our main source of incomes in Cuba. We were able to produce two vaccines. Do you know how many times has been vaccinated with this in Cuba? Like I think like it was like at the first time was like a period of 3 vaccines, and they give you a 4 like a booster or something like that. And that's all. How many times have you been vaccinated in the United States? I haven't been sick with COVID anymore. So they are effective. And how many people died in Cuba with COVID? How many people died in the United States? Like how the side effects of these vaccines, like the science that we are making in Cuba are great. And also it's a danger. It's a danger because it represents like the global south is actually a small country is able to produce their own medicines and their own vaccines, and they are doing in a prices affordable for people, and they want to transmit this knowledge and this science to the rest of the global south, because we are not just selling vaccines to them. We want them to know how to produce them.
Exactly right.
Because
and it's also a challenge to the whole like world system, because one of the reasons that there's this justification for the high markups for medication, right? It's like, oh, big pharma, they need these markups because if you don't pay a lot of money, you won't have innovation. That's the only way you get scientists to work. And here you have this system in Cuba where you've discovered these things, and there is no private market, right? It's a totally different motivation.
Yeah, but let's talk also about collaboration, because I'm pretty sure that I say there is a lot of people like doing like a really good, important and innovation things in the science. So what about if we just can just work together
Yeah.
to try to figure out like and that's the most important things. Like I think like people lost that in mind, because it's not just a Cuba problem, it's a war problem.
Right.
Because it's not just United States trying to fight Cuba. They are trying to isolate Cuba. They are trying to kill the idea of whatever having mindset about what is Cuba and what Cuba represents in the war. And I think like there is a lot of good examples about collaboration between the United States and Cuba, and they're great. Why we need to have? I understand that we don't think the same. We don't have to think the same in order to be friends, or in order to
Sure.
have just be neighbors, or in order to work together in aspect that we actually needs to work together. For example, counter narcotics or counter terrorism, that we
Right.
have in like a long record, like historia, like we actually work together and the things work more
But you
than
guys
if
are on
United
the
States.
terrorist list,
Yeah,
even
that's
though you do counterterrorism work. And there was like collaboration with the Coast Guard, right? But not anymore, I believe.
yeah.
Can you talk about
Well,
that?
yeah, well, the last time that I asked, they say that they maintain contact. Like Cuba is reporting to the United States, but it's not the other way around. They say it's like 1-3-3-1, kind of that kind of
Right.
collaboration. It's like a weird. There is a lot of silence. It seems like since the last year, and but they are open to still collaborate, because they say whatever is a threat, and they say we are open to maintain our borders clean and protect our borders even when they don't have any fuel, because they say whatever is a threat to the United States is a threat to Cuba, because we
Right.
are too close one of the other. So it's important to maintain that collaboration, that cooperation. And also, like, this is something that I already have said, but I think it's important to people reminds, like, if there is a crisis in Cuba, if Cuba get really destabilized, where are the things that people are going on? It's not gonna be in Mars, it's not gonna be Jamaica or DR, it's gonna be the United States. It's like,
Right.
so you are trying to avoid a migration, trying to bring more people. That's crazy. If you destabilize a country, this is gonna be. If you destabilize Cuba, there's gonna be a boomerang from the United States,
Right.
gonna hit in your face.
Well, what's really interesting is there's this Republican Congressman, Carlos Gimenez, obviously from Florida, and he hasn't been to Cuba in 64 years, and he went. Why did he go? But he went to inspect migrant facilities at Gitmo, which you kind of can't make that up. But yeah, that's what brought him to Cuba. And let's see, what does it say? Hold on, let me just read that. He went to assess the migrant facilities of the U.S. Military base and meet with law enforcement officials. So that's the kind of thing that sent this guy back there. And wait, show that again. Brad, can you throw it back up there? I just want to show. So this guy who cares so much about people, right? He says, at the age of 6, Congressman Gimenez fled Cuba, and the Gimenez family was forced to seek refuge in Miami, Florida, following Fidel Castro's overthrow of President Fulgencio Batista in 1959. Since the Communist Revolution, Cuba has remained under the control of a brutal dictatorial regime that has oppressed its people for decades, which is interesting because Batista was not exactly the most democratic leader, I would just have to add. And that is, by the way, who the Rubio family fled under. Batista, not under Castro. But what else do you want to make sure that people know? Because I know you have limited time. And then, Hebel, I have so many questions for you. And thank you for your patience. I just can't.
Yeah. Do you wanna? I feel like the things is getting okay. So maybe Abel, do you wanna talk about
Sure,
this?
yeah. I just didn't want. Yeah. Hebel, what do you want to have to?
You
What do
vote for him. I can't vote.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there we go.
I
Okay.
mean, one of the things that she was referring to, the collaboration between the two countries. Even though we do not have the best of relationships, we were doing Cuba was like intercepting drug trafficking through the Caribbean, and all those things. It's known that Cuba maintains that kind of collaboration. So when you see it in the big picture, and at the end of the day, it's like in my opinion, normalization of relations, that's the way to go. We saw a few, years ago with Obama, he did it the way he did it, but, there was good things that happened during that time. And then going back to Trump and then Biden and Trump again, we seen that all that it's just when you go back, you're like, oh my God, I wish we will continue to do that kind of relations and be kind to one another. And one of the things that I know for a fact is that Cuba has their bio pharmacies and the way they produce medications. That's one of the things that United States could benefit from. So there could be it could be saving American lives. And that's why, yeah, it's true. I don't live in Cuba. I'm not going through the day by day like a person in Cuba, but I go in my heart every single day for what my family has to go through. And I guess my intention is to change the public opinion for the American people to understand that Cuba is not a threat.
Yeah.
Cuba is not a threat. There's no way. There's no way that a small little island with less than 10 million, almost 10 million people, is a threat to the U.S. There's no way. So, I can, between the two political parties, obviously, there are issues with both of them. They continue to do the same. At the end of the day, they have the same goal. So it doesn't matter who wins. There's this surprise. What are they going to do about Cuba? And I have a small little story to make if I have time. But so when Biden removed Cuba from the list, the chair of the Miami-Dade Democratic Party, she put in a statement against it. She didn't agree with Biden, the president of the country from the same political party.
We're moving it from the terrorist list?
From the terrorist list.
Yeah, right.
And so, we got into the call with her. And the moment she went into the call, she said, this is not for debate. I'm not going to change what I wrote. So nothing's going to change. That's the way she started a call with us. All I wanted to say is listen, there are people that agree with President Biden. Cuba needs to be removed from the list. But that's what I'm saying. There's a problem between the Democratic Party. So I guess we have to continue fighting. We have to continue raising our voices. And that's one more time. I need the American people to love your neighbor, come out, speak for Cuba. Every place you go, listen to independent media. Because if you think of, the regular networks, they barely talk about this. Or if you see the headlines, they're very, very different. They tell you, oh, there's blackouts in Cuba, but what is causing the blackouts?
Right.
So they're not really fair the way they're saying it. So that's why I support, independent media, and we have to help our families, and that's what we're doing. If they do well in Cuba, I'm doing good here too, because I don't have to worry about them. I know they've been taken care of. But if they're in crisis and there's problems there, that's also my problems as a U.S. citizen.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, and Katie, I'm real sorry to interject, but before we got too far afield from it, I just wanted to throw up here what we were just looking at. And I was looking through this, and as you read how they frame since the communist revolution and the brutal dictatorial regime, like just the language that they're using here. I went to the bottom of this, and it lists all the things that this guy is doing. And at the very end, he is a member on the select committee on the Chinese Communist Party. So I think that...
What is that, though? What is...
That, well, to me, that would mean, the committee that deals with foreign relations with China and things like that. And just the language. I mean, this is the guy's own website. And
right.
So the language that they were using about Cuba, it seems like this guy might have some biases.
Yeah, but it's the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party is committed to working on a bipartisan basis to build consensus on the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party and develop a plan of action to defend the American people, our economy, and our values.
Well,
but anyways, I don't think like
So I don't think it's a
talking
contradiction.
from,
But we
in my
can make fun of him
opinion,
for other examples of hypocrisy. But yeah,
okay.
it's like, for me, the biggest hypocrisy here is like you're talking about human rights abuses and democracy
yeah.
from the jail of the United States, more infamous in the world. Like, you can choose another one, maybe from Miami, to talk about this. Just it's like,
Oh, you mean the guy who went to? You mean going to Gitmo?
Guantanamo Bay.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable.
That's
Right.
crazy.
And it's
Like,
not like
how-
he went
how-
there to speak
like-
out against it. Yeah. In fact, we have a video featuring him. Can we show the video of Carlos Gimenez, Brad?
Take a look at this op-ed. It reads, Cuba is approaching its Berlin Wall moment. America must help them break through. Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez wrote that, and he joins us this morning. Congressman, let's begin there. How does America help Cuba?
Right now, America helps Cuba by continuing its sanctions and its oil embargo on Cuba to break the back of this regime. The regime needs to go. The people of Cuba have suffered long enough, and so America needs to keep up the pressure to force the regime to go and to help the Cuban people finally be free.
But if we continue to do what we've been doing, will there be a breakthrough? Does it need a little extra effort and push?
I think it needs. I think we need to continue doing what we're doing. It's actually working. The people are starting to rebel. Look, the problem with this regime is that it's very brutal, and when the people do come out in the streets, they get beat up and they get put in prisons.
By the way, this is from 3 days ago. So just so you know, lest you think when he's saying, does there need to be more pressure? It's not like this isn't already in the midst of an oil blockade. But
it needs to be backed up by the United States so that if the people know that they can come on the streets and they can demand change and force this regime out, that the United States will have its back. And that's what it's needed. And by the way, it's not just for the Cuban people. It's for Americans' national interest. Because the Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, the Iranians, they're all working in Cuba. Cuba has been a foe of the United States for over 65 years. It helps ferment discontent and revolution in our hemisphere. And they need to go. And then, you know, obviously what they've done to the Cuban people for the last 65 years, they destroyed this beautiful country of Cuba and just destroyed it, you know, run it right into the ground. They don't even have electricity anymore. And so electricity, food, medicine, all the basic necessities are lacking in Cuba. Their standard of living is actually lower than Haiti's. That's how far this regime has taken this country.
so I wonder why those, first of all, their standards of living, I mean, they outpace the United States on some metrics, which is crazy. Let's see, I have it somewhere, a kind of stunning statistic. I'll look for that, but I just had it in front of me and I don't know where it is right now. But I mean, who's causing this suffering that he's describing? You'd never know that there's any role of the United States in there. Yeah.
No, of course not. It's like, and I was really shocked when they say like the standard of life is like under even worse than 80. And it's like, okay, 80 have a communist like regime. I don't, what was going on in 80?
Right.
Why you mention 80? Like, that's racist, but
Right.
I don't have to talk about that. But also it's like, what are you expecting? Like, and for me, it's really, well, Carlos Gimenez is like, he used to be a shy guy, but now he's really vocal with the situation in Cuba and so on. But it's like, if the regime is so bad and he's the worst managing their own people, what is the necessity of pressure? Why you need to put more pressure? And you're talking about more pressure, what does it mean? How is how is the sanctions actually helping the Cuban people? I don't get the connections. Like, you are putting more sanctions because the regime has to go. So they're going to say, oh, more pressure from the United States. Bye, people. Love you. See you next what are you thinking? Like, and this is like the level of journalism is like, it's like, okay, more pressure, but what does it mean in actions? Like, oh, okay, so that's why they don't have the lights on. So you're saying that a country, and it's funny because in the executive order was the same, because they say like Hamas, Hezbollah is in Cuba. Everyone
Yeah.
is in Cuba. It's like we are
Right.
training people from around the world. It's like we barely can keep the lights on, and you are saying that we are a malign influence from the war.
Right.
Like you need to go through the map in the global south, in Latin American, and all the last elections. The most
Right.
of them are right wing. The people who actually are winning. So what are you talking about?
Well, it's
What are
interesting.
you talking about?
Yeah, and speaking of the life expectancy in Haiti, so here's something that Ben Norton tweeted out. The U.S. empire will never forgive Cuba for having a revolution that overthrew a right-wing mafia-backed U.S. puppet dictator and then outperforming its neighbors in public health while attaining the same life expectancy as the U.S., 78, despite the illegal murderous blockade. And then this shows the life expectancy at birth, total years: Cuba, United States, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Guatemala.
But
And here's the United States and Cuba. So it's not, sorry, it didn't outperform the United States, but it's close to the United States. It outperforms all these other countries. And the fact that they are close to the United States or the same at some points in history, despite the difference in resources, is stunning.
But like saying that, it's like, why the country of compare is Haiti? Like it is not like that because they want to be like that. It's just also collective punishment. Don't forget about that. They were the first Black country from
To overthrow
liberation,
slavery,
and they say like, okay, and that's the way they punish in a way that they haven't
similar punishment, right?
able to recover. And also, who is running Haiti? Like
Right.
we're talking about a felon country, and you're sending more soldiers and more money to the military there, to the police who burn people alive on the streets. What are you talking about?
Right.
Like, for me, that's why you need to do homework and to try to read about what is going on. Because if you hear these guys like, okay, oh, Cuba is doing worse than Haiti, but that's not fair. Like the comparison, because I think like not just in Cuba, like also like I think like there's a lot of similarities with us and other countries in the global south. For example, between Cuba and the DR, the data from migration to the United States until 2019 was almost the same. So Cuba were fluent from communism, of course, but people from Dominican Republic were fluent from what exactly? I don't get it.
Right.
So, and if you see this without context, you can't understand. Like you can, because they are just talking, but they are not like giving the full context of all these ideas. And also we have like similar things, but the way that we develop science, healthcare system, not just offering people healthcare, like the way that we organize the whole thing is incredible. Doesn't have anything to say different from not a country in the global south, a country from the north. Like the life expectancy in Cuba is getting lower now because of course we have been dealing with so many stuff, and one of the sectors more impacted by the sanctions is the healthcare system.
Right. Where you guys really excel with preventative care, by the way, which is something that I think people can't even imagine in the United States, the way that, like the kind of treatment that people get there. Because here you can't get anything until you have the disease. Like, you know, these what is the GLP, the weight loss things, like you have to have diabetes apparently before you get it. Like it can't be used preventatively. It's only covered if you actually have diabetes. It's the exact opposite of the way you guys deal with it in Cuba, which is that you treat something, you use preventative medicine because first of all, yeah, right, and it saves lives. It saves a lot of money, of course, too. But it's just like,
of course,
it's also that you just prevent people from getting sick in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, and for example, for me, it was normal just to be checked. Like the nurses knocked my door to ask me,
Right.
like, you are already 25, you need to go to examine with the gyneco. And I was like,
Right.
what? I say, yeah, of course I'm gonna do that. Like I forget, and they knock in my door again. Okay, you need to check out because cervix cancers and everything. So you need to go cytological test once a year, every time. So like, even if you forget, the people who are related to that are knocking your door. And that's for me was normal. That's the way it is. And people was like, no, I haven't do that, and I'm 35. And it's like, well, that in Cuba, you have to. It's almost mandatory to do that when you turn 25.
Right.
So, but but that's the way it used to be. That's not the way it is now. And that's the sad part of this story. We are losing that because, as I said, like the healthcare system is one of the most impacted by the US sanctions, and it's impacting like every aspect. And people, maybe you have the doctor who can take care of you, but they don't have the means to take care well of you. So everything is getting more and more complicated. And someone said, like, we used to go to an appointment or a consultation with the doctor just because, doctor, I haven't feel well. You can send me some tests, and you can go and send some tests like immediately just to make sure that you are fine. And now it's like, it's impossible to get that because they don't have this, they don't have that. So they don't have nothing right now to send you to do some tests. And we're talking about people that actually doesn't have a real disease, but let's talk about people that actually are going through like bad disease, like cancer or something like that. Like that. And if you have people in the United States that maybe can help, that's good. But there is a lot of people that doesn't have a person in the United States that actually can send some help. So when you're talking about Cubans, you can't rely on people in the United States because that's not fair. I think like we have been shown in history that we are more than capable to take care of our own people. We just don't have that capacity, and we can't change that ourselves because U.S. policy on Cuba doesn't depend on us. That depends on the people in the United States to do something with their own politicians. Like when people say, what do you want from the United States? Nothing. I don't want nothing. I just want to leave alone. They need to stop whatever they're doing. Don't help, please. Just do whatever you need in order to fix you. Try to help your own people.
Right. You're not asking for charity. You're just asking for justice.
Yeah, exactly. And just like let us to try to build something here. Cuba is far from perfect. We have a lot of things that we need to fix inside of the country, of course. But that depends on us. That doesn't depend on a foreign country. And that's the idea. Why I have to trust in someone that can offer freedom, democracy, of healthcare, or education to their own people, housing to their own people, to offer to me and my people in Cuba. I'm a Black woman, so forget about it. Let's talk about Black population in the United States. Let's talk about mortality rates, Black mothers in the United States. Let's talk about that compared to Cuba. Why they don't mention that? Why they just mention like a scarcity blackouts when they talk about Cuba, but they don't talk about Cuban medical missions?
Right.
Oh, wait, they did, but they are trying to manipulate it, say like, this is a business, they are a slave, they are spies, depends of the country. But also because they know that right now this is one of the big sources of incomes that Cuba has, and they are trying to kill one by one. That's why the U.S. like the U.S. Embassy in Cuba, Mike Hammer was doing in Calabria, in Italy, like trying to talk to the people who actually are hosting Cuban doctors for more than a year since the pandemic. And they say like, now what is the game here? Why you have to be in Calabria? You don't have things to do in the embassy? Why are you sending to Italy? What kind of, like, you're going there to threat them, like to cut the deal with the Cuban doctors? Because they need the Cuban doctors. Cuba are not threat people just gonna send my doctors, period. No, they say, okay, can you send some doctors? Like, and we send doctors to Italy. Why the doctors in Italy are not taking care of their own people? Why do we need to send them from Cuba? What is the deal? Because there are poor and dangerous areas that don't want to send. They don't want to war there.
Right.
They don't. So who are the ones who are offering to work there, to trying to help the community?
Yeah.
The Cubans, as always.
You know, I have to show something. I just wanted to show something from, oh, okay. Well, Brad wants to show something. Cuba sends doctors. No, put it up, Brad. Cuba sends doctors, the US sends sanctions. Yeah, that's a perfect way of putting it. And by the way, you know, this is so important to point out. The Lancet, the excellent, you know, very peer-reviewed medical journal, points out that, let's see, a study looking at sanctions between 2010 and 2021 determined that there were more deaths as a result of sanctions between those dates than battle-related casualties, and the same as some wars. We estimate that unilateral sanctions between 2010 and 2021, sorry about that. I put it on Do Not Disturb and it violates that. Okay. 2010 and 2021 caused 500, hold on, let me just send this to you, Brad. It'll look a lot nicer if you, wait, where is that? Nate, do you have the link to that article? It links to phone number back. So anyway, sorry about this. Where did it go?
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Sometimes I have this conversation with people, and all I have to say, and sometimes it's like, you know, I don't want the conversation to go on and on, but it's like Cuba doesn't need a bailout from the United States. Cuba needs to be left alone. Leave Cuba alone. Let it do the thing. Let them decide what they want to do and how they want to progress. But yeah, it's like, it's this obsession, and I don't know if it has to do with the politicians, and hopefully maybe this year they all get like voted out of the, you know, the three, you know, those three, because those three people, they have no, I don't know what kind of compassion they have. If they have family, would they want their family to suffer just because some political agenda and some things from the past? I mean, you know, it's insane to me that the way they talk, do this, keep putting pressure, starve them, that's okay to do it. I'm like, will you do that to your family members? What kind of people are this?
Yeah.
So I mean, at this point, I'm like, you know, I think everybody needs to be fed up by this and speak up and trying to understand is like, we need to have a normal relationship. You have to respect their way of thinking. You have to respect their government. They respect this government. They respect this country. We have to do the same. We have to come to a middle ground so that way we can move forward.
Right.
But apparently there's a group of people there, you know, because all the administration is skating is to, I think the president said it on the plane the other day, oh, you know, I care about the Cubans that left 60 years ago,
so badly,
and they haven't go back to see their family. I'm like, what family? Why they haven't gone back to Cuba? Because they don't want to go. Do they have any family left? Because if you have family left, you don't do this to them.
Right.
You're nicer. You help them. You don't want this to happen to them. I mean, the words they're using, starve people and keep putting more pressure, that's unacceptable. And we can't stand for that anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, or some people I think just actually are like sadistic. I mean, some people have family there and they just care more about what was done to them personally, or what they say was done to them. Their hatred of the Castros, even though they're both dead, like, is much stronger than their empathy. It's insane. I was in Miami and I went to this domino park thing that they have, you know, where they play dominoes, and there were these guys, and one guy who was like so right wing. I mean, he said that like Pinochet was great, and he said Francisco Franco was great in Spain, like was not progressive at all. And he mentioned that he'd been back to see his daughter, and like everyone was like, what? Like, I'm not kidding. Everyone was mad at him for going to visit his daughter. And he's like, "Yo, see, boy." And they were like, "What?" And they were yelling at him. And the guy, like, I had to blow the whistle, like the security guard blew the whistle and pointed to a sign that's like, "No spitting, no yelling." I couldn't believe it. But I just want to show one thing. This pop star has been getting a lot of attention. And I want to show something. So Camila Cabello was praised the other day on Instagram by Billboard magazine. It says, Camila Cabello is using her platform to raise awareness for her home country of Cuba. In a post on Instagram, the Fifth Harmony alum shared photos of herself as a young girl living in the Caribbean nation alongside present-day pictures of Cuban citizens protesting conditions under the current government. Read her message. And so she says, she calls out the oppressive regime in Cuba that is starving people. She goes, "There's so much going on here at home, and so much I can say about the heartbreaking things the immigrant community experiencing here on the US. Okay, that's good to talk about. I also feel a personal responsibility to speak out what's happening in Cuba. I still have family on the island that we speak to and send medicine, food, and clothes to. It's been 67 years of a failing dictatorship and oppressive regime. The Cuban people are suffering in an echo chamber where no one can hear them because to speak is to risk your life. Many people are starving, looking for food in trash heaps, and the only way to survive is having relatives ship you boxes of medicine because not even the hospitals have medicine. The power's gone for so long that food spoils and water becomes scarce. When people have peacefully protested, they have been disappeared or been behind bars, some as young as 13 years old. This is a reality where a post online costs you your life. The Cuban people have lived without dignity and without hope for too long. It's no wonder so many Cubans have thrown themselves into shark-infested waters, making boats out of tires and sticks and risking their lives for freedom." And then she says that they're now in the midst of a profound humanitarian crisis. If you want to help and don't know how, check the link in my story. Support Caritas Cuba and their work. If you're able to give, any donation makes a difference. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Which is nice that she cares, but she is a U.S. citizen. It would be useful for her to perhaps use her voice that way to shed some light on what her government is doing. Hebel, I see you shaking your head, but I think you muted. Either one of you can respond, obviously.
I don't think she cares. I don't think she cares. I mean, if she really cares, she'll be, sending medicines to Cuba. And, you have to forget, you can't keep thinking that way. It's like if there's an earthquake in a country, if there's like a tornado, you just help the people. She doesn't really care. And I hate to give credit to, for example, I guess a few days ago, Gloria Estefan, which she doesn't like the Cuban government, but I think she was some kind of festival, and she said that the oil blockade of Cuba is not the way to go.
Wow.
Even that person said that. And,
wow.
And listen, I'm and I'm okay. You know what? She said that. And I'm thank you for saying that. Of course, she has to put all the stuff in there, but at least she agreed that this is inhumane and this is a crime, and we need to stop this.
Right.
So it has to go that way. Listen, you don't support the government, but guess what? What is wrong, and that's the way. You have to say it. So.
Wow. Yeah. Gloria Estefan on the oil blockade. It's not a way to bring down the regime.
Yeah. So and actually, I wasn't believing. I'm like, is this true? Because I know the way she thinks, and then I looked it up and did my and in fact, she did say it. She did say it. So thank you for saying that, and hope she gets to do a little bit more and engage, or maybe visit Cuba. She needs to do that. So she will,
Yeah, Liz, maybe you can invite her, give her a tour.
I would love to invite them, by the way. I really enjoy to talk to you people, but I really enjoy to talk to people who thinks different about Cuba, because maybe we can find...
I'll change my what I say.
Yeah, please do it. Yeah. But I think I don't know. Well, I kind of have an idea why she wrote that, but I think and it's curious for me that she's saying like, people, please do donations through Caritas Cuba. That's the same organization that the US government is using to try to bring humanitarian aid to Cuba. I don't know if you know that, but they approved this $6 million dollars aid to Cuba, and it's like
maybe you shouldn't trust the charity that the government that's starving these people is telling you to use. But she doesn't even mention that the government of the U.S.
No, it's not. It's not. And also, it's like really hypocritical double standard again. Like, you are helping the people you are trying to asphyxiate. That's crazy. How much is like, and oh my God, that's so ridiculous. I feel like if you don't like the government, that's okay. Like, for me, the biggest deal is like they say like, I'm profound though. Like, I don't know. I'm doing like whatever. He's hurt because the migrant situation in the United States, but they just mentioned that. And now let's talk about 2 paragraphs completely about Cuba. What about the people, like migrants, Cubans in the United States has been deported to Guantanamo Bay, even, or to other countries that they have the fear. Like, you just say it at the beginning, okay, because I need to say it, because I need my migrant fans wants me to talk to you, but they don't actually say nothing. That I don't. The thing with me is I don't get surprised, because I'm not expecting nothing from the people, because they never have been actually doing something in order to help the people who live in Cuba. I completely understand and respect the way they feel about Cuban government. I would like to hear explain the reasons why she feels that way. Because they say you have like electricity and they let us a lot of blackouts. Babe, like your current government has an oil blockade on your entire your homeland country. So and also it's not new. It's coming from the 2019, because we need to also do a little bit of research. We can just swim in the shallow waters. We need to go deep. Like for me, it's about responsibility. You can have like a big platform and you can say whatever. Please take a moment, read some book, read some articles, and then just talk to the people, review the executive orders and the way that your politicians are talking about Cuba and the sanctions that are implemented on Cuba, and then take the moment to do whatever you want. Like, I don't want to critique. Whatever you can talk whatever you want, but at least do the homework.
Do your research, do your homework,
at least like take 5 minutes, 2 hours to read some. And I think like that's the thing. Like, the people are just saying whatever is on the mood, whatever the vibe is, whatever everyone is repeating. Let me do the same. Like, let me post it the same July, because people are talking about July 11th. You know what happened July 11th?
Well, it's my birthday. My birthday.
Oh, congratulations. You know why people in Cuba was on the streets?
Why?
I'm saying, like the entire thing. Have you read like Mallory Memo? What they say we need to asphyxiate.
Exactly.
At least, like, what is the goal? Because I don't create a goal. I don't invent it. They say it. I have to say it. They say it. They write it out. We need to asphyxiate and suffocate the Cuban people and make them hunger in order they get frustrated and they want to overthrow their own government. That's the goal. I don't say that. They say it.
They say it.
They write it down. You can please do the homework. Memo, Mallory Memo, and you can just go to the health portal ad. So,
and by the way, the thing I was saying. Oh no, keep going. Sorry.
No. And everything is happening in the middle of the pandemic. Like, Cuba was trying to face and contend the COVID-19 pandemic situation in Cuba that we recognize now, by the way, without tourism, without funds, without incomes. At the same time, the blackouts and necessity and the prices of the food and the necessities skyrocket. Of course, that people are gonna get angry and gonna go on the streets. But that's legitimate to people to do that. And I'm wondering, like, if people going to try to protest, and we know that because we're talking about sanctions, but this is like economic war on Cuba. This is collective punishment on Cuba. Economic war. You can go do the homework too, in order to say, I'm not creating, I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly what it is. And you can expect that the government don't do nothing. I'm no support what is what happened in July 11, but I say that that's the reaction of any government. Of course, there's going to be repression. It was repression. The government feels that it's on siege. So
Right.
they think that they need to, and that's another thing, like people just understand. Do you want more freedom of speech in Cuba? Let's get rid of the sanctions. Let's just go with the United States apart, because no country around the world that is under siege, that is under economic war from the most powerful country in the world, is gonna be really open to discussion or to critics or whatever. They're not gonna do that. But also, like, you need to think like critically, like in a country, because it's, oh my God, I feel like everything is so double standard, because you're saying about migration situation, like the situation is facing the migrants in Cuba. You're posting photos of people being repressed in Cuba on July 11th. That is really sad. And you're not talking about people being killed by your own government to try to protest migrants, and the policy that you're applying in migrants in the United. How blind or how manipulated you want to people just see one reality, because I see that sometimes people in the United States, it's difficult to see their own problems because they are too focusing other people's problems.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
say like, say whatever you want. Who cares? I don't care. Like, I wasn't expecting that you say nothing. Like, it was like actually helping us, because how long have you been a pop star? I don't know if she really is a star. I don't know. I don't follow her. But anyways,
Good voice.
like, you haven't said nothing in your entire life, and you're gonna say it now because
Yeah.
this is a tendency.
Right.
Whatever. What does it mean for people? What means for your family in Cuba that you're using the platform to amplify this? Again, the responsibility. We need to be careful about the power of the media, because there is a lot of manipulation going around. There is a lot of lies. Like, and at the end, you need to put your head in your pillow and actually be in peace, because history is just one, and at the end you're gonna be remembered for the things that you did, and also for the things that you actually said. So don't be a fool. Like, try to be smarter than that, and try to go deeper than just repeated whatever is in tendency in TikTok or whatever social media that people are using right now.
Platitudes, yeah. And by the way, there were 564,000. This is what I was saying before, and this relates to exactly what you were saying, Liz, about the obsession with why sanctions are so valuable, and why they're used, and it's disgusting. But that Lancet study showed that there were 564,258 deaths as a result of unilateral sanctions between 2010 and 2021 versus 106,000 battle-related casualties in the same period. So,
well, I don't, yeah.
They're murder sanctions. Yeah.
But I need to check that data. But for me, it's like, of course, it's hurting the people.
Right.
Maybe because I spent my last 5 years trying to explain to people how the sanctions is affecting the people with the work that Belly of the Beast has been doing, like actually amplifying and trying to visualize what is the sanctions affecting the people in Cuba. That was the main goal of everything. That was the war on Cuba, main goal, and then uphill on the hill, harder in the Hawkson. Everything that we did and we do, and I expected that we did and we do it in the future, is related to the impact of the sanctions in the Cuban people.
Yeah.
And maybe for me, so basic that how are you expecting that you are trying to suffocate it and trying to asphyxiate it, a country that doesn't have any essence, and the people, they know that. Like, you can be so, I don't know. It's so complicated. I'm going beyond. I don't think like people actually.
No.
What is this one memo?
And this, by the way, is the Mallory memo that you mentioned, right? So the decline and fall of Castro. So this is from 1960, and salient considerations affecting the life of the present government of Cuba are, and then it talks about how popular Castro is. And then where is okay. Wait, okay. The only foreseeable, okay. So it's one, the majority of Cubans support Castro. The lowest estimate I've seen is 50%. There is no effective political opposition. Fidel Castro and other members of the Cuban government espouse or condone communist influence. Yeah, in large part because of the US, but that's another story. Communist influence is pervading the government and the body politic at an amazingly fast rate. Militant opposition to Castro from without Cuba would only serve his and the communist cause. The only foreseeable means of alienating internal support is through disenchantment and disaffection based on economic dissatisfaction and hardship. And then they actually talk about, one second, let me go to that. Let me just read that, because then there's the three things that they promised that they will do. One second.
If the above are accepted,
let's see. If the above are accepted or cannot be successfully countered, it follows that every possible means should be undertaken promptly to weaken the economic life of Cuba. If such a policy is adopted, it should be the result of a positive decision, which would call forth a line of action which, while as adroit and inconspicuous as possible, makes the greatest inroads in denying money and supplies to Cuba, to decrease monetary and real wages, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow of government. The principal item in our economic quiver would be flexible authority in the sugar legislation. This needs to be sought urgently. All other avenues should likewise be explored. But first, a decision is necessary as to the line of our conduct. So again, just this is the really important thing that they said, which is that the goal is to decrease monetary and real wages, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow of government. And it's the same thing that was from 1960. The more things change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. This is really wonderful. Hebel, I saw you nodding, but you were muted. So I don't know if you want to say something.
Oh no, and that's exactly 1960, and we're still dealing with this, and at the end of the day, it's a crime. It's a crime, and so we're here, and thank you so much for having us, and be able to express our, dissatisfaction, our anger, also our love for our family, and that will never stop, and we're gonna continue working and fighting. And I want to remind everybody that this coming Sunday, 1 p.m., Miami International Airport. If you have a beautiful heart, which I know most of Americans do, please, if you're in the area, support the Cuban families, reach out, get in touch with organizations that help Cuba and any agency that send packages, and we need your help. And also, no, caritas, no.
And if you send me a link, I'll make sure to put it in our descriptions. But yeah, sorry, I cut you off. And what were you saying?
And continue and keep in mind that we're neighbors, and we're good people, and my family's there, and we're amazing people too, and we deserve to have a beautiful life, and no more hangries.
Yes. And if you want, by the way, to go to Cuba, which some of us are doing, there is a convoy, Havana, March 21st. Some of us may or may not be going. Some of the people on the screen right now, sitting right here, we'll put a link to that. And that is going to be a great way. A lot of organizations, a lot of people are going to do that, go there to show solidarity. And to show people that Cuba is an amazing place. I've been there 3 times, by the way. I went under Bush, the order is Clinton, Bush, and Obama.
Wow.
Now I'm going to be going under Trump. I mean, in theory, but it's legal if you're bringing humanitarian aid. So
yeah, I want to talk to you about the difference of coming in 3 different periods of time.
Oh yeah. I know. I wish I'd kept a diary. Honestly, a journal. But the funny thing is that I think that I disliked it the most under Obama because, and I know this is like not nice, but I guess it was just the most, it felt like more, I mean, people were thriving more, but, and I know people really liked it, but it felt less, I don't know, different.
Special.
Less special. Yeah, it did. Yeah. Which I know
Because
people,
you weren't the only one gringo here.
I know, exactly right. I was more, I had a gringo monopoly before, or not exactly, but closer to that. But yeah, it's true. So, but I mean, I was happy, obviously. But
Yeah.
the people are so, the children are amazing. Like they're really educated and inspiring. And again, I don't want to romanticize because I didn't grow up there, and I know that there are hardships there, obviously, and it's not like any government is perfect. But I will say that what Cuban government has done in terms of foreign policy, to me, seems like the most moral government actions I've ever seen in terms of what they do abroad. And there is a lot of beautiful stuff there, and the kids are amazing.
Yeah, but the most important thing to remember about Cuba is a country that is worth it. No matter how, like, whatever you think about Cuba, like Cuban people is worth it. And the things that we are trying to build in Cuba are worth it to do something in order to help the Cuban people. Because it's like, of course, there is a lot of scarcity. Of course, there is a lot of things that we are lack of.
Yeah.
But like, we are happy. We were happy people.
Yeah.
And that's something that also I think that we are losing. Like people, I remember in my childhood, I doesn't have like a lot. I remember that my mom even doesn't have enough money to buy me a Barbie. I just
Your mom
having
was
a
a doctor, right?
yeah, and I just having like a baby that is like simulated like a real baby when I was in high school. Can you imagine that? That's crazy. And they don't have enough money to buy me a bike to go around in the community. But I had an actually happy childhood.
Yeah.
I don't have any regrets. I don't think that I was lacking of something that was actually value. Of course, I don't have access to like material things, but I was a happy kid.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that a lot of kids can say about their childhood in Cuba. They were happy here. And even I talked to the people in the United States that they just left 5 years ago, and they say, I wasn't having a lot in Cuba, but I was happy. And here, access to a lot of things, but I'm not happy. I'm not saying that one place is better than other. I think like the both places can offer different things to the people. And certainly, Cuba's magic. And not because it's Cuba, because it's people.
Yeah.
The people in Cuba are magic, are warm and open and welcoming, and like it's like and I love the most because if you're going to a place where the people doesn't have too much, that are the persons who are offering you the most.
Yeah.
You want coffee, you want water, you want
studies
juice,
about
you want
that,
it's continually offering you things, and next thing is like, oh my god, I can't drink your coffee because maybe it's the last coffee that you want. But it's like they actually want to share with you, and that's the value of things. We don't share the things that we need a lot. We share the only things that we need, and that's magic.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this, and definitely come back on.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Yeah,
And make
it's a
sure you send me
pleasure.
the link to put in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you, Liz, in Cuba, and Hebel, maybe I'll see you in Miami before that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please.
Great.
You're invited.
Okay. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And don't go anywhere, guys, because we have an amazing other interview for you. But that was amazing. I love that. It was so fascinating talking to people, someone who's in Cuba, someone who's from Cuba, but not in Cuba. And what was amazing is that they both had the same aim, which was to expose the need for, I mean, not to sound corny, but really it is just, I mean, letting people live and thrive. And it's not, they're not asking, I mean, it's because the United States is doing what it's doing that they're asking for support, but it is justice. It's not charity. That's what's, I think, very important to bear in mind. And it is an incredibly special place. I
just wanted to, if there are some out there that are not aware, and they can go and you can do a quick search and look through, because there's a lot more than this, but just to add on to the document that we had shown a few minutes ago, Katie, Here's another one from 1977, how the
Oh my
CIA
God.
poisoned Cuban livestock. Says that early in 1971, the CIA transferred a virus into Cuba, which resulted in the first outbreak of African swine fever in its history, resulting in them needing to slaughter over 500,000.
Shh, I don't want to hear it.
But the outbreak was labeled by the most, quote, the most alarming event of 1971 by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization.
Yeah, they've tried to kill him like 60 times or something. By the way, no, 100 times.
Here's another one from 1963. Plot to bomb Cuba, and the idea was basically the US, the CIA wanted to fly planes into Cuba and bomb them, but have the planes have Cuban signage or insignias on them to then use that as a quote unquote incident to justify then invading Cuba.
Wow.
So, and
Yeah.
like there's plenty more that people can look into. That
Yeah, we should do an episode on all the sabotage that the United States has done. They tried to put a bomb in Fidel Castro's beard. They tried, no, in his cigar. They tried to put it in like a coral reef because he would go scuba diving. Yeah, there's a book by William Blum called "Killing Hope." A
person, Bisquick in the comments also is correct here. They also poisoned the sugar going to the USSR. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been going on for decades and decades and decades, and it clearly.
Yeah, we'll need more than one episode.
Yeah. To your point, Katie, like, you know, as the guest so well put, that they're just wanting to survive and thrive, and they want the same things that everyone else does. And I just don't know how you argue with the historical record here, how we're not the baddies in this situation. Yeah.
Well, I also want to just quickly read these super chats. Gray Scout Epsilon, the evil and those behind war, the same reptilians and Epstein files, true. And then Brian says, end the embargo, let Cuba live. Thank you. Amen to that. Now, we are going to move on to a very different subject, but in some ways it's related because there is a Zionist lobby, an Israel lobby, and there is a Cuba lobby, and there's actually a lot of overlap. But this next interview that I'm about to play, that I'm very excited about because it's such a great panel. We brought together three people: Carrie, Prejean, Boller, Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, and Sameerah Munshi. So Carrie Prejean Boller is a member of Trump's Religious Liberty Commission, who challenged the claim that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, as you'll see. Also on that same committee was Muslim American activist Sameerah Munshi. She was an advisor on that commission. And Yaakov Shapiro was invited by Carrie to be on that commission, and he was not allowed to be on that commission. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about these guests before we play this great interview. So Carrie Prejean Boller is a wife, mother of two, and passionate advocate from San Diego, California. She first rose to national prominence in 2009 as Miss California. She later authored the book Still Standing with the support and mentorship of President Donald Trump. She became Catholic. She was an evangelical, and then she became Catholic. She was welcomed to the Catholic Church Easter 2025 and remained steadfast in her mission to protect the religious liberties of all Americans. And she is deeply committed to protecting religious freedom and upholding First Amendment protections and the right of every American to live according to their deeply held beliefs. On the National Day of Prayer, Carrie was appointed by President Trump to serve on the Religious Liberty Commission at the White House. And she is married to former NFL quarterback Kyle Boller. Okay, so that is Carrie Prejean Boller, who we're about to speak to. We're also going to speak to Yaakov Shapiro, who people who watch the show know and love, an international speaker, author, and pulpit rabbi for over 30 years, now emeritus. He's the author of several books. He wrote his first book when he was 19. And his most recent work, The Empty Wagon, Zionism's Journey from Identity Crisis to Identity Theft, is a 1,381-page treaty on the differences between Judaism and Zionism. And Sameerah Munshi is a Brown University graduate with degrees in mathematics and political science, where she was recognized with the James Manning Medal for her life in interfaith engagement and religious studies. And she has since pursued advanced study in the Islamic scholarly tradition and is currently an advisor to the White House Religious Liberty Commission. And we're going to have Sameerah back on because she has so much to say. And if you're a Patreon subscriber and you see the full interview, you'll hear that Yaakov Shapiro says an amazing quote. I don't want to give it away, but he shares this amazing quote from one of the religious texts. And then after we stopped recording, Sameerah said that something comparable is in Islam. And I would definitely want to have her back on, right, Brad, to tell that story, because that was an amazing thing that we didn't get to capture. Okay, so without any further ado, here is that interview. And it's a very great interview. And there's even more of it on Patreon, but here is a big chunk of it. And then we will say goodnight to you. And if you want to see this full interview where we react to things like Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee's really embarrassing statements about the Middle East. And if you want to watch a Muslim, a Jew, and a Christian react to it, you can find that at Patreon. That's at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. So here we go. Let's watch this great interview. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Wanted to start off by asking you about the Religious Liberty Commission, what it is. Carrie and Sameerah, you were both on it. Yaakov, you were mentioned by Carrie. But Carrie, you've been the center of a major controversy. So can you walk us through first what the commission is and then tell us what happened to you on it?
Yes. So the president, by executive order on the National Day of Prayer last May, signed an executive order establishing this Religious Liberty Commission. There's 12 members of this commission. I'm one of the 12. Sameerah is one of the advisory board members of this commission. I think there's around 30 of the advisors to this commission. Our job on this commission is to hear from everyday average Americans like myself who are facing any religious persecution, religious liberties, being jeopardized, or any, First Amendment rights being penalized due to their religious beliefs. So we have hearings once a month in Washington, D.C., and they're all day long hearings, as you guys all saw a couple weeks ago on that Monday. And then coming up this May, we are supposed to meet with the President of the United States and to recommend our own personal recommendations to him on certain executive orders or legislation that can be passed in order to ensure religious freedom for all Americans in this country. Great.
And Sameerah, what was your role on it?
Yeah, so I'm an advisor on the board of the lay leaders. So my job is basically to, reach out to the admin of the commission, request if there are certain topics that, advisors we would like to hear. We would also recommend certain witnesses to be put forth, like me and Carrie did. So that's kind of like where I fall. I obviously have less agency on the commission than Carrie and the actual commissioners, but my job is just there to advise, to make suggestions here and there. So yeah.
Great. And what was the topic during this particular day that was that created such a firestorm?
Yeah, antisemitism.
Okay, so the focus of this one was anti-Semitism. Okay, right. And so, Carrie, you came out swinging, I would say, in a good way. You were very direct in your framing of the way that anti-Zionism is conflated with anti-Semitism. I'm just curious, before we get into what you actually said, what made you even bring this up? Did you plan on it, or was it in response to what the witnesses were saying?
Yes. So I knew about this hearing prior. I mean, we had all the topics, every topic for the hearings since May was on certain, religious liberty in healthcare, religious liberty in the military, religious liberty in the private sector, anti-Semitism. That was the hearing for obviously the world all saw. So leading up to this hearing, I thought, okay, I don't want this to be a biased, one-sided hearing. I want to hear from Jewish Americans that are facing real anti-Semitism. So I reached out to Rabbi Shapiro, Miko Palad, David Spivak, and then also Norm Finkelstein. And I reached out. I said, can you come speak? I would love to hear from you. I genuinely cared about their, feelings on this topic. It shouldn't just be pro-Zionists that are, pushing this pro-Israel agenda. And so I sent a beautiful letter to the commission and describing them and describing why they should speak, why their voices should be heard, standing up for, their voices to be heard. And ultimately they were rejected. So leading up to the hearing, they were rejected. And then they did an intervention hearing which Sameerah was, or intervention meeting where Sameerah was there present. And they were asking, what I was going to say. And they were questioning kind of my motive that day. And I just said, are we going to talk about Israel or are we going to talk about America? Because people want to hear from Americans who are facing this religious discrimination in our country. So if you don't want to talk about Israel, I won't talk about Gaza, because they brought up that I had, posted about being pro-Palestine. And obviously from the very beginning, they didn't want me on this commission because I was very clear where I stood, standing against the genocide in Gaza. So, the hearing started and I just wanted clarification. What is anti-Semitism? Let's define the terms. I think we have to start there. And they didn't like it because they wanted to equate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And then when they really got angry is when I read Rabbi Shapiro's quote. And I asked them, does that mean that he's an anti-Semite, that a rabbi can be an anti-Semite? So they didn't like that.
Right. Well, we're going to take a look at some of the footage of your very fiery questioning.
Rabbi Shapiro, he's based in New York. I invited him here today, but he's not here today. He says, and I would love your opinion on this, American Jews are increasingly treated as less fully American, our loyalty questioned, our belonging made conditional because Zionist ideology falsely claims Israel is the nation state of Jews everywhere and that every Jew is nationally tied to it. He says, this framing is anti-Semitic at its core. It strips us of our identity as Americans, recasts us as foreigners in our own country, and arms anti-Semites with accusations of divided loyalties and collective guilt for actions we neither chose nor control. No other foreign country does this. No sovereign state claims to politically represent an entire worldwide group defined by religion or heritage and bind its members to its deeds. Yet Jews alone bear this unique, unjust burden. That dangerous lie must be rejected openly and firmly. The remedy is clear: civic education that teaches unconditional American belonging through citizenship alone, not ethnicity, heritage, or any fabricated foreign tie. We are Americans, full stop, and we reject any doctrine that treats us otherwise. Would you say that statement is anti-Semitic?
What I'll say is that Natan Sharansky says there's three things that you shouldn't do with Israel. You shouldn't delegitimize it, you shouldn't demonize it, and you shouldn't apply a double standard. You can abide by those three things, you're not anti-Semitic.
So by not being a Zionist, does that make you an anti-Semite?
I don't think you need to be a Zionist to support a country that defends itself and is free and religious in a hostile neighborhood.
So is anti-Zionism
Hold on
anti-Semitism?
one second, Carrie.
Yes.
It is. It is.
Sorry.
Yes.
To take that point for a second.
Let me back up. I didn't want to step over that answer. I didn't know you were still, both of you, still talking. So
Just to be clear, is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism?
Yes.
It is under IHRA?
Rabbi,
Sure.
you're up next.
You're not sure?
Definition,
So
but
what is the
I would
definition?
love to speak to that. Undoubtedly, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and undoubtedly, and one does not have to support the specific policies of the government of Israel, but to not support the right of Israel to exist, which is what anti-Zionists do, while not taking that same stand to the 28 Muslim countries and 13 Christian countries in this world, is a double standard, is hypocrisy, and is absolutely anti-Semitism.
I mean, he didn't answer the question. None of them answered the question. Carrie asked a simple question. I said that I'm upset because there's a country out there that claims that it is my country. It is the nation state of the Jewish nationality, which I am a member of. That's their claim. That casts us as foreigners in our own country. This was an old problem that Jews had with Zionism from the time that Edwin Montagu, the only Jewish member of the British cabinet in 1917, when the Balfour Declaration came out, mentioned Israel claims that it is the country of all Jews. Netanyahu claims that he represents all Jews. Before, I have a list, if you want, for later, I can give you a list of times when Netanyahu claimed that he represents not only the Israelis, but all Jews all over the world. Not only all Jews today, but generations and generations of Jews. When Naftali Bennett referred to Netanyahu as the prime minister of the Jews, where Isaac Herzog referred to him as the prime minister of the Jews. Bennett said he's the leader of the Jews. He is not my leader, and that casts us as dually loyal.
Right.
Everybody knows it. Very simple. All I said is that I want to be an American like everybody else. I am an American like everybody else. And the solution is very simple, that in civics classes, it should be taught that America is not an ethno-state. America is not something that where, because I'm Jewish, you grant me as a guest equal rights. Because I'm an American citizen, America is a melting pot. We are all Americans equally. And I am not connected to any foreign state, and connecting any ethnicity. I don't care if it's Muslims, I don't care if it's Hindus, I don't care if it's Jews, to some foreign country is bigotry. But the only country in the world, he's talking about double standards. Here's your double standard. There's only one country in the world, one out of all 200 countries, that claims that politically it is the country of people who are citizens of another country, never were in that country, never lived there. Their parents and grandparents never lived there. Just because I'm born into a certain religion, Israel claims that it is the nation state of the Jews. Netanyahu is my leader. There is no other country like that. How in the world could that be considered anti-Semitic? And they couldn't even bring themselves, these Zionists, to say.
Right.
They couldn't even bring themselves to say, no, that's not anti-Semitic. If Yaakov Shapiro wants to be connected only to America, his family's from Poland, he wants to be connected to America, and he doesn't want to be considered a national or loyal to a foreign country, that's not only not anti-Semitic, that's great. The opposite is anti-Semitic. How could an American Department of Justice committee think that how could they not say, no, that is not anti-Semitic, but the Zionists would not say that.
Well, because
and that's what Zionism is.
Well, right, because they think because their position is the anti-Semitic one, right?
That's right, 100%.
They can't say that what you're saying is anti-Semitic, because they actually would basically be admitting that their position is anti-Semitic.
100%. Yeah. And I didn't even mention anything. Carrie read my statement. I didn't mention, and you know, Katie, I've been on your show many times, and we've even had a debate about this. I did not mention anything about Israel, about Gaza. I did not mention anything about Palestinians. Right. I mentioned something about the United States of America, its laws, what it means, and its Jewish population, and that's it. And even that, they can't bring themselves to say that if American Jews don't want to be associated with any foreign country, including Israel, not China, not Russia, not Israel, that's not anti-Semitic. Right. That's incredible.
Well, and what I did by reading his statement is I embarrassed every single one of them on that stage. I embarrassed and humiliated and debunked their idea that if you're not, they want everybody to think that all Jews are Zionists. Exactly. Number one. Right. That's number one. And then they didn't want to admit that they would be calling a rabbi, a Jewish American rabbi, an anti-Semite. Think about that.
Right. Well, no, but this is how they dealt with it, actually. We'll return to the rest of that, but here's how they dealt with it. So they avoided it. They avoided the question, or they didn't call Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro an anti-Semite, but they did say that Zionism is anti-Semitism, after saying that they didn't think that. But then Shabbos Kastenbaum, who's at the PragerU, who I had the pleasure of debating on Piers Morgan, and who has a habit of not being very honest. Well, it's always one of those debates, like ignorant or dishonest, or in this case, maybe both. This is how he responded to Carrie bringing up Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro.
Carrie, do you have a follow-up? Your light was on.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, because you didn't really answer my question about the rabbi. Were his statements anti-Semitic?
If he's applying a double standard, then yes.
Can I answer the
Yeah,
question?
please. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Are you referring to Rabbi Shapiro of the Empty Wagon?
Yaakov Shapiro.
Yeah.
And that's the book that this tome that the rabbi that wrote, which is The Empty Wagon: Zionism from Identity Crisis to Identity Theft.
So he's an incredibly discredited rabbi. I think he lives in Lakewood. He wrote this book called The Empty Wagon, where he deliberately mistranslated works from rabbinic sages like Elchanan Wasserman, for example. That's why he doesn't have a community of his own, his own synagogue, because I encourage everyone, learn Hebrew. He deliberately mistranslates the text. Whether it's anti-Semitic or not, I mean, who really cares? That's kind of the point we were discussing earlier. You can hate Jews or not hate Jews. I don't really mind. What I do mind is when people violate the law, and that's why this commission is so important. So hate Jews, think they control the banks, think they have horns. I mean, go for it. I don't mean you, but one can go for it. But what matters is when they're violating the law. And
Okay, so
Who is this kid?
he works
that?
for PragerU, which is this non-university. It's like a think tank that makes videos that's very liberal.
Yeah, I know what PragerU is.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking this guy up now. Harvard's Divinity School. I didn't know they read my book in Harvard Divinity School.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I made it for rabbinic students. But I'm not. Look, listen. If I had to respond to every lie that every Zionist kid ever said about me, it would be a full-time job. You know, whatever.
Well, and I don't appreciate Shabbos's anti-Semitic statements about my friend Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro.
yeah.
I thank you. Listen, Zionists are very, very, very anti-Jewish unless you're a Zionist. It's very simple.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you notice too, his only response to Rabbi Yaakov's statement was to just discredit Rabbi Yaakov altogether. He couldn't even respond to the actual points discussed. Right. So I mean, it goes to show there's no real logic behind it. They can't really defend their positions at all in any meaningful way.
No, not. And what in the world are we asking them to say? What did Carrie even ask them to say? Did she ask them to say anything about Israel and Gaza? She asked them to say one very simple thing, that if a Jew in America doesn't want to be politically connected to any foreign country because he wants to be considered an equal American as any other American, is that, and Israel should not get in their way, that American Jews do not want, some American Jews at least, do not want a foreign country to mix into their lives. Is that anti-Semitic? That's all she asked them to commit to. That's right. All she, and even that they couldn't commit to.
Do you, I know you probably don't even want to dignify it, but anything you want to say in response to the claims that you mistranslated Hebrew? I mean, I would love to see you have a Hebrew off with that Shabbos kid. I think anyone watching, regardless of their politics, finds it very unbelievable what he's saying.
Listen, you know, again,
you don't want to punch down. You don't want to punch down.
Yeah, and that should be the worst thing Zionists say about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least he said he doesn't care if I'm an anti-Semite, right? He said, I don't care if it's an anti-Semite.
That may be the one honest thing he said, because he's happy to work with anti-Semites if they're Zionists.
Like, you know, it's not even.
You're
it's
a better
really,
man than I am. You are.
I mean, look, it's not being a better man. I just, I mean, you know, I have a little, let me have a little dignity, you know, why do I don't have to deal with this?
Right. True.
If you want, whenever you're ready, I can give you a list of places where Israel claims, because that's what people are going to say. No, Israel doesn't claim to represent the Jews. They
love that talking point, right? They love that
absolutely do. I have sitting here on my desk, I have a whole file cabinet on it downstairs.
Right.
But I have over here on my desk anything you want, starting from Theodore Herzl all the way to Benjamin Netanyahu, through Israel's laws, Israel's Supreme Court, Isaac Herzog, Naftali Bennett, Benjamin Netanyahu, you name it, that is Zionism. Zionism is, and this is not my definition, Israel's Supreme Court said this, because people always, Zionism is just that Jews can live in Israel. Right. Or Zionism, no. Israel's Supreme Court said the foundation stone of Zionism is that the Jews are a nationality. That's what it is, not merely a religion. The Jews are a nationality. That's what Zionism invented. That's what it presupposes, all versions of Zionism. And Israel's 2018 nation-state law says that Israel The state of Israel is the nation state of the all Jews all over the world, is the Jewish nationality. Benjamin Netanyahu claims that he's a leader of the Jews. He was referred to by Israeli ministers as the prime minister of all Jews. Although he claimed when he came here in Barack Obama, you remember when he came here to address Congress during Obama's about the Iran deal?
Obama, yeah.
When he left, he said, I am leaving. I represent not only coming as the head of the state of Israel, but, quote, I'm coming as an emissary of all the citizens of Israel, even those who don't agree with me, and of the entire Jewish people. That's a quote. On October 21st, 2015, Isaac Herzog lambasted Netanyahu for saying that the Mufti of Jerusalem gave Hitler the idea to kill the Jews. Quote, Netanyahu has forgotten that he is not only the Israeli prime minister, he is also the prime minister of the Jewish people, end quote. Just a year before that, Naftali Bennett, who was the head of the National Religious Party, Bayit Yehudi then, if I remember right, he was Minister of Education later to be prime minister, said in reference to some Obama administration official who referred to Netanyahu as a coward on his Facebook page, quote, the prime minister of Israel is not a private person. He is the leader of the Jewish state and the entire Jewish people. Cursing the prime minister and calling him names is an insult not just to him, but to the millions of Israeli citizens and Jews across the globe. The Times of Israel, 10/4/2015, had an article, quote, it's called Netanyahu is the leader of the Jewish world, says top aide. It describes a Sabbath sermon in a Manhattan synagogue given by an Eli Groner, Director General of the Office of the Prime Minister of Israel. It said Groner, quote, I wish every Jew in the world would have been in that room. It's talking about a meeting that Netanyahu had with Ban Ki-moon, remember, from the UN, to witness the eloquence with which the leader of the Jewish people, because the prime minister is by design, the leader of the Jewish world, spoke out in their behalf, okay? And the list goes on and on and on. And everybody knows, it's very simple. And you know that the definition of a Jewish state, according to Israel's own website in 2014, Avigdor Lieberman wrote an article on the Israel's website, printed under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He said that the definition of a Jewish state is nationality. If you want to know what Zionism is in a nutshell, this is a very good formula. He said, what Japan is to the Japanese and France is to the French, Israel is to the Jews. Without Zionism, what Japan is to the Japanese and France is to the French, Israel is to the Israelis. Instead of Israel being the country of the Israelis, Israel is the country of the Jews, including me, which means that if you take me and other Americans, take Carrie, a Christian American, take Sameerah, a Muslim American, right? What America is to Carrie and America is to Sameerah, Israel is to me. Tell me that's not anti-Semitic, and tell me I don't have a right to be upset about that. And when Carrie mentions it, imagine this, a Catholic mentions this, not only that Jews should have equal rights, but that Jews are equal Americans, quoting a rabbi, asking a simple question, is this anti-Semitic? That I want to be the same American as Sameerah, as Carrie, as Katie, as every other American citizen in this country that pays their taxes, hangs out a flag on the 4th of July, and is an American citizen like everybody else. And these Zionists cannot even say, no, of course that's not anti-Semitic. They cannot say that.
Well, we're going to talk more about this because this is so important.
Oh, just one thing I have to say, because I realized as you were talking, Katie, when you asked me about the Shabbos kid, I don't know why he's not named Shabbat, by the way, with the Israeli accent. But when you when you mentioned the Shabbos kid, and I said, I didn't want to signify it, the Zionists are probably going to say, see, he didn't deny what he said. So just let me make a complete denial. Absolutely. There's no reality over there.
I'm going to play a little bit more from this commission. So here is more.
I think it's also important that we not make Islamophobic remarks while we're here today. I would appreciate that.
I just want to say,
this is a religious liberty hearing.
God forbid was anything like that said. But if the Jewish people are the only people that you deny the right to have its own state, that is absolutely a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
Well, as you know, I'm a Catholic, and Catholics do not embrace Zionism, just so you know. So are all Catholics anti-Semites, according to you?
As I said, anti-Zionism, by denying the right of the Jews to have their own state while not saying the same for any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
So just to be clear, are Catholics anti-Semites?
Carrie, excuse me. I'm going to interrupt the discussion. Our committee is focused on religious liberty taken from all people, whether they be Muslims, Jews, Christians, Sikhs. We've had all those witnesses here. This is not a commission on defining religions or calling out any theology, or this is not the commission for that.
Right, but we're talking about a foreign nation, so I want to be clear on what the definition of anti-Semitism is. I don't support the...
And by the way, for people who may be just listening, this is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who was chastising you, Carrie. Okay.
Right, but we're talking about a foreign nation, so I want to be clear on what the definition of anti-Semitism is. If I don't support the political state of Israel, am I an anti-Semite? Yes or no?
They already answered, asked
Yes.
and answered.
According to you on the record, yes? I don't support the political state of Israel?
I don't personally label people, but what I'm saying is, if somebody states if somebody says they're an anti-Zionist, they are saying about themselves that they have a double standard and hypocrisy, and they're taking anti-Semitic positions.
Okay. Carrie, you feel like you have your questions in?
I don't agree with that, because as a Catholic, I don't agree that the new modern state of Israel has any biblical prophecy meaning at all. So that's my stance, and I'm Catholic.
Okay, so tell us, I mean, you could see that you were, some people were quite angry about this, uncomfortable for understandable reasons, because you were forcing people to look at inconvenient truths. So tell us about what the reaction was there, but also afterwards.
Yeah, no, it's just the idea that they were trying to make it a claim that not only is Rabbi Shapiro an anti-Semite, but now the claim, the outrageous claim that Catholics who don't embrace Zionism are anti-Semites. That their claim is that Catholics and Jewish Americans that have the same belief as Rabbi Shapiro, we're all hateful bigots. That should have been the story. That should have really been the headline, is that this Religious Liberty Commission went along with the statement that a Jewish American who doesn't embrace Zionism is a hateful bigot, and Catholics who don't embrace Zionism are hateful bigots, and Muslims who don't embrace Zionism are hateful bigots. That should have been the story. That is outrageous, and I reject that.
And so how did they respond to you afterwards? What kind of reaction did you have kind of behind closed doors?
Well, as of today, I still am on the commission. I haven't been removed from the commission because the president has the authority to remove me, not Dan Patrick. We're an equal on this commission. The way the executive order was established, only the president can remove me, just like I can't remove Dan. So he overstepped his authority because his allegiance to a foreign nation outweighs his allegiance to the United States of America and the Constitution, unfortunately.
So
and I think a really important part to highlight there is especially how they were really trying to subvert the power of the president in trying to get Carrie fired here. They weren't interested in abiding by the actual, executive order. They weren't interested. They're only interested in playing by the rules, and the rules benefit them. They wanted to subvert the power of the actual president, who was the only one who was allowed to, remove presidential appointments. So
walk us through what happened, how they attempted to remove you, who spoke to you, and when and how.
Yeah, so after the hearing, I was very scared. I was really fearful of my life, actually. Sameerah, you can attest to this. After the hearing was over, there was my priest was there, and another priest was there from the Orthodox community, and he really had my back and said he supported me and thanked me for my stance. And so after the hearing was over, I was really scared, and so Sameerah went with me. I went over to spend time at the Catholic Information Center to visit my priest there and really just debrief. And I didn't hear from anyone. And then the next day I get this text, and it's at 7 a.m, and it says, "Carrie, I called you at 8:54 Central Time on Wednesday, February 11th. It went to voicemail. Your voicemail is full. I called to notify you that effective immediately, you have been removed from the Religious Liberty Commission. This is my decision, Dan Patrick.
Did you have any other interactions with him? Did he, I mean, you've been very public in denouncing this. Has he acknowledged this? Has he acknowledged the point that you just brought up, Sameerah, and you obviously brought up Carrie, which is that he doesn't even have the authority to do that?
He is so power drunk right now on this whole idea that, you know, he just has to remove me, get me out, shut me up, silence me, discredit me. He's mocking me for my new conversion to Catholicism. I mean, this is supposed to be the chairman of a Religious Liberty Commission defending all Americans' religious rights, including those that he doesn't hold firm to. I am defending all Americans' rights, Jewish Americans, Muslim Americans, Hindu American. I mean, every religious person in this country. This should be a very clear message from Dan Patrick that you don't have your religious freedom if you're not a Zionist in this country. You'll be removed, you'll be smeared, you'll be labeled an anti-Semite, you'll be labeled a bigot, and I reject that. And so, no, I haven't heard from him because he's too busy doing the media circuit right now instead of protecting religious liberty, which is what the president appointed him to do. So it's very unfortunate. But I responded and I just said, you have no authority to remove me. The president is the only person with that authority. And you've been trying to remove me since August. And I have the receipts. So,
wow. Another person who was critical of you was Paula White, senior advisor to the White House Faith Office. And I just want to play a video of her to introduce everyone to her.
I'm scared.
Strike and 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 strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. Victory, victory, victory. For angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. Hamanda ata raka te de baka santa ata ambo osa kata rite eke banda ata rike didi ashata. For angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now. They're coming here. They're coming here. In the name of Jesus. From South America. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. From Africa. From South America. Angelic forces. Angelic reinforcement.
You get the point, I think. Sorry about having to.
That was painful.
Yeah. So tell us what's do people need to know about Paula White?
Yeah. So Paula White, she is Trump's pastor, I guess you could say, if that's even to be taken serious. No, so she was the one from the very beginning back in August. Sameerah, you can attest to this. I called Sameerah right after I got this call from the White House, and they asked me for my resignation back in August. And I couldn't understand why they would be asking me to resign. You know, I had just been appointed. I'm doing my job. I was looking forward to the first hearing on religious liberty and education. And, you know, this is my position and I'm going to protect religious freedom in this country. I was excited to do it. Then I get this call from the White House saying, you know, we're asking you for your resignation. I said, who's asking me for my resignation? Is it from the president? And she kind of didn't, she was skirting around it, but then I finally got her to admit that Paula White, Dan Patrick, and then a woman named Brittany Baldwin, who used to work for Ted Cruz, they were the three that had, I guess, asked her to get me to resign. So this has been a witch hunt from the very beginning. So I decided not to go public with it just because I was committed to protecting religious liberty and I wanted to stay on this commission. I thought that my voice mattered and I needed to remain on. But yeah, this has been a witch hunt from the very beginning. And then Paula White had the audacity to call me with Dan Patrick on the phone and basically ambush me saying that I wasn't allowed to use social media, that I wasn't allowed to post about my faith. I couldn't post anything without getting her permission. Paula White told me that I had to get her permission to post anything regarding religion or my religious freedom. I mean, you can't even make this up.
Freedom, right?
You can't even make this stuff up. So she really is the woman behind all this, trying to ambush me out. And she was even at the intervention meeting. And I mean, this woman, as you can see, you know, I don't think she's well.
Yeah. And a lot of people who, even people who are evangelical, are critical of her prosperity gospel theology, which really is very materialistic and focuses on things that I, as a non-Christian, feel like really go against Jesus's teaching.
100%, 100%. I agree with you completely. Yeah, she doesn't represent Christianity. In fact, it's people like her that give Christianity a really bad name. Sort of like how Rabbi Shapiro feels, it's like she does not represent me. And I really take offense to the fact that this is a presentation of what Christianity is. And so I think Christians have been subverted by people like her, Zionist supremacists like her, who are more loyal to a foreign country than they are the American people and the Constitution.
Well, I also wanted to show another clip of someone who claims to be an ally of the Jews. That's Ben Carson, Surgeon Ben Carson, and he had some very interesting things to say about Jewish people on this commission.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your passionate stance and bringing some clarity to this issue. I've known a lot of Jewish people, worked with a lot of Jewish people. Some of the finest people that I know sitting in the front row here, Dr. Henry Brim, 25 years, the chairman of neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins, is one of the kindest, fairest people I've ever worked with. And I wonder why, do people really think that Jews are a separate entity in the United States of America? Jews have been here since the very beginning. They, too, were interested in a place where they could practice their religion freely. When George Washington's army was about out of cash, it was Ham Salomon, a Jew, very rich Jew, who gave up virtually all of his money and encouraged other people to give, which saved the Union. I don't know that we would have ever become a country without the input of Jews. So that's something we need to remember. We need to remember that during the Civil Rights Movement, who was standing right there with the rest of us who were interested in freedom for everybody in our society? It was the Jews. Many of them died for the cause of civil rights. And I just want to make that point, that they are not a separate entity from Americans. They're a very important part. And how do we get people to recognize that and not think of Jews as something separate?
So I thought that was interesting for a few reasons. One is I had to laugh because he's like, I'm going to defend Jews and I'm going to argue that they are doctors and have a lot of money. Okay, I like the civil rights one. But what's funny is that he seems to be making the argument that you're making, Rabbi Shapiro, except he, of course, would not agree with your analysis because he's not a critic of Zionism.
Ben Carson was in context there. He was responding to Carrie's question. He was responding to Carrie, and he was saying, no, Jews are not separate. Jews are part of this country. Right. We're part of the American story. But he's not going to say that, okay, I mean, he asked the question at the end, well, how do we get, why is it that people are looking at Jews, that they're not Americans fully as much as other Americans? How do we get people to look at them properly? Now, he wouldn't say that, well, it's partly because of Israel. Partly because of Israel. He's not going to say that. And by the way, he was the only one that defended the Jews as Americans after Carrie asked that question. None of the Zionists did, and nobody after Ben Carson took up his question when he said, okay, how do we get people to look at the Jews as Americans? Nobody took up the question because apparently they didn't want to offend the Zionists over there. They just went to the next thing. But he was, I got to give him credit for that he at least was the only one that actually responded to the main part of the substance of Carrie's question.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
You could like him or not like him, whatever.
Yeah.
But at least he was sitting there trying. He opened up the floor. He asked the question: how do we get people to look at Jews as equally American? That was his question.
Right.
That was the last thing he said.
Right.
But nobody said anything.
I just want to know why none of the members that were on the commission that day, not one person on that stage other than myself. I mean, why didn't they say, wait a second, Carrie has a point. Why are we equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism? That's wrong. That is wrong. Why didn't any of them have the courage to do that? Their job is to protect religious freedom, which includes Jewish Americans who are not Zionists, like Rabbi Shapiro.
You know, Carrie, when you invited me to this thing, I mean, I even told you, I said, like, I'm not getting my hopes up because I know that whenever Zionists put together something about anti-Semitism, it doesn't really mean anti-Semitism where people don't like Jews, you dirty Jew or something, just because you're Jewish. What they are looking to accomplish is to make sure that people support Israel. That's what they're looking to. That's what they're looking to accomplish.
You're right.
And I have to tell you that I did get contacted by the committee, by one of the members of the committee, and I spoke to her on the phone, and she was very, very nice. She asked me what I'm going to say, and I told her at length what I was going to say. She was, her demeanor and content, she was extremely nice and polite. And then after I was done, she said, well, all the slots are used up and there's no more slots. That's what she
They
told me.
happened to go to all the slots went to Zionists. They didn't have any
Yeah.
slots left.
I also want to point out the fact that though that fact was not actually true, because one of the, even during the hearing, one of the witnesses said that actually I'm filling in for someone else who actually couldn't make it. I don't have any remarks to say. So I think it goes to show that the system was rigged. And and Katie, if it's okay, I do want to comment on the fact of why they even had a commission like this in the first, why they even had a hearing like this in the first place, if it was all just going to be a Zionist pony show. Well, the fact of the matter is that they recognize that Americans are changing their minds. Americans are waking up to what's actually happening. Americans are seeing the videos and images coming out of Palestine and Gaza, and they're seeing children's limbs being blown off, and they're asking themselves, wait a minute, why are my tax dollars going towards something like that? And you know, they want to silence Americans' free speech, and they want to silence Americans' questioning on the issue, because they know that Americans can never look at America's relationship with Israel the same ever again. And they're afraid. Americans that are looking at their own communities and they're seeing, you know, people next to them who are homeless. They're seeing people who can't afford healthcare. They're seeing people who can't afford rent. 42 million Americans are on SNAP. They can't even afford their own groceries. Yet we're sending all of our money towards a foreign country to bomb innocent people. I mean, my grandfather, he fought in the US Navy. I mean, particularly for this reason, that Americans are allowed to question foreign governments. Americans are allowed to have opinions. Americans are allowed to, you know, question Zionism and ask, what is my country doing in terms of foreign policy? Why are we getting ourselves into this situation? So I think that they are afraid. They know that Americans are waking up. They know that Americans are seeing the truth, and they want to try to, you know, revamp their image. And this is very clear that Israel is recognizing that, you know, America is changing its mind. The world is changing its mind about what they view, what they believe about Israel. And this goes to show, if you know, Katie, I sent you the Stagwell survey that the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs commissioned this Stagwell, this organization, to essentially poll people and do focus groups to understand how can we fix our messaging around Israel? How can we fix our messaging? Because they know that, you know, that they are losing the messaging war. They're losing the battle, because, you know, at the end of the day, like, we have the truth, and they're seeing this. And when they put up something like that, and an established commission under the government, they want the United States to come up with this face that if you are American, then you stand with Israel, even to the denial of people's own eyes. They want people to deny their own eyes and deny their own, you know, sense of reason. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They know they're losing the battle. They know they're worried about what people think. And so they just try to keep putting up these, you know, fake shows, fake displays of loyalty to Israel for no reason.
Right. And here we have some of the results of that study. I'm just going to read part of Ryan Grimm's article. The Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs commissioned an American polling firm to perform a sweeping battery of surveys and focus groups coupled with message testing aimed at rehabilitating Israel's image in both the United States and Europe. The work remains ongoing, but a preliminary report from the firm was leaked to DropSite News by a source with direct access to it. The work is being performed by Stagwell Global, a firm founded by notorious political operative Mark Penn, who serves as the company's chairman and CEO. Penn donated $100,000 to AIPAC after October 7, 2023, and his ties to Likud date back to his work on Menachem Begin's 1981 campaign for prime minister. Stagwell is also on the verge of getting a no-bid contract from the Trump administration to study American attitudes towards vaccines. This is
Sorry.
Sorry?
Yeah, if you could also go down to the ending part, the recommendations that they have around messaging, it's exactly what Rabbi Yaakov was saying earlier, that their recommendations is to kind of, essentially smear other people. Their recommendations is don't focus on the topic at hand, focus on the actual people speaking up against it, focus on, other threats, other issues, focus on the idea that, there are other threats to your country, so you don't need to worry about Israel. They don't really have a answer to anti-Zionism. They don't have a logical answer to it. They just have this endless campaign of trying to smear people, trying to paint them as bigots, trying to paint them other people as dangerous. Their ideas are crazy, not ours. So yeah, they know they're
I'll add to that. If they really wanted to focus on anti-Semitism and combating anti-Semitism, they would have accepted every single one of my witnesses. We would have had a civil, respectful dialogue debate, and everyone would have had their voices heard. But instead, they want to silence, smear, and cancel. That's what they do when their agenda is being, like Sameerah just said, when it's being diminished. When their push on pro-Israel, you must support Israel at all costs. I have nothing to do with Israel. I'm with Rabbi Shapiro. This is my country. I'm an American. Why are we talking about Israel over 17 times? I had to stop keeping track. Why are we talking about a foreign country? Why are we equating a religion with a political ideology?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the irony, is that, I mean, it's actually anti-Semitic to claim that all Jews are Zionists, because first of all, it's just not true, and it represents us as a monolith. It's the whole dual loyalty trope, which these people claim to oppose whenever they want to criticize someone like Ilhan Omar. They accuse her of perpetuating the dual loyalty trope, even though the very claim that anti-Semitism is anti-Zionism actually is founded in the dual loyalty trope. But also, as people see what's happening, as people see, as you guys are saying, children are being blown up. They now have the highest child amputation ratio per capita in Gaza, and people are being told that this is being done in the name of Jews. How on earth can that not harm Jews? And again, it's funny to me, or it's disturbing to me, or it's curious to me that even people who don't care about Palestinians, I would think that they would have the brains to get how claiming that Israel represents all Jews is bad PR for Jews, just out of self-interest.
There's a control that Zionists have implemented to make sure that doesn't happen. Zionists have convinced, and this is very key to understanding Zionists. Zionists have convinced their people from kindergarten up through generations that really.
And to hear what it is that Zionists have convinced their people of for generations, please do join us at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. How's that for a cliffhanger? But you will definitely enjoy that Patreon only. Brad is giving me a thumbs up. It says, do you mean good for a cliffhanger? Okay, thank you. Yes. There's a lot of great, a lot more great stuff in that Patreon only segment. We got some funny outtakes at the end. We have a cold open at the beginning, and we have just more of a discussion, including a discussion about what Tucker Carlson said. Well, no, actually about what Mike Huckabee said to Tucker Carlson. So thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that you enjoyed the over 2 hours of free content. And we also hope that you will become Patreon supporters to support the show and also to see the rest of that interview. And again, that's at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And that was a great chat. I think that they said really interesting things. And also someone just said they're going to TikTok. Reminder, please follow me on TikTok at KTHelps_. I think that's it. Is there anything else that we need to remind people to do, Brad, besides like the stream? See, on Useful Idiots Monday morning, I yell at people to like the stream because they don't, but I think I need to do that here too, because actually the likes are pretty good. All right.
Have you tried asking nicely, Katie?
No, I can't do that. Yeah, please do like it. Well, I do try lots of times. Also, I'm on Upscrolled, but I think I posted like once to Upscrolled. I have to do that more. But the important thing to do, of course, is become Patreon supporters. And I think that's it, right?
2 super chats.
Oh, 2 more super chats. Great. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay, what type of human society needs to debate the pros and cons of R-PING humans?
Our wording humans, and I think
Our
that's
wording
just
humans.
a comment about in the beginning of the conversation with Carrie and Rabbi and Sameerah, the clip that they were watching about at that hearing, and those people were, in my opinion, falsely, saying to Carrie, like, yes, being anti-Zionist is
Anti-Semitic, yeah.
anti-Semitism, and talking about Israel and all that. I think that might be in relation to that.
And I will ask the rabbi this. In fact, I will text him this tonight. Can the rabbi explain? So this is from Cadmus V5T. Can the rabbi explain the book of Sanhedrin 21b, verse 22? God bless, from a Lebanese guy. I will ask him about that. And again, make sure that you subscribe, because we do a lot of extra streams. And this was a great show. Thank you so much to Hebel. Thank you to Liz. Thank you, Carrie, Sameerah, and Rabbi Yaakov. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Phantom Basfanta, for the clip. Thank you, Nate Newburn, for the research. And also, there was one more thing I was going to say, and now I can't remember what it was. Dang. Oh, definitely become Patreon supporter so you can see Brad say something nice, and then someone kind of, not embarrass Brad, but say something kind of funny in response.
You're gonna have to be more specific.
When you're like, you're doing a great job, don't say what was said.
Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. And he responds basically like that. Okay.
And yeah, Rabbi Shapiro, he's such a nice guy. He even hung around afterward for a lot longer than he needed to, just answering questions that I had. I offered to come over and help him shovel snow, but he didn't take me up on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should offer to be a Shabbos goy.
I don't know what that means.
That
but...
is I don't know.
Oh, is that like what you would do things on?
Yeah, on Shabbat, on Shabbos, when you're not allowed to do things. It's
that's actually interesting that you say
aren't
that.
Allowed to do it, but non-Jews can. So you can, like, a non-Jew can like turn on the, like, press an elevator. No, I don't think you can go in the. Well, actually, it's interesting, because in hospitals on weekends, I feel like, or on Saturdays during Shabbat, I think that they make the. Am I making this up? That elevator stop on every floor?
Yes, no, you're correct. But
They
it's
do,
just
right?
super interesting that you say that, because that's literally what the impetus of me talking to him after we were done was, exactly about these things.
Oh, wow.
And he talked for quite some time explaining it to me.
But how can you go in an elevator if you can't touch it? Like, in other words, isn't it breaking a rule to be in an elevator?
Well,
I know you're supposed to make exceptions, which is good, like to save a life,
Sure.
or if there's a medical emergency, but why are you allowed to ride an elevator and not touch the buttons?
I think that that's something we need to have Rabbi Shapiro back on to speak to, because part of what we talked about, like, some quick summary is, like, he mentioned going outside and being able to carry things, and women not being able to, say, like, push a stroller because in public because of that.
Did you tell him about your neighborhood thing? The string?
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what we talked about. But it was just a much more deep reply than I anticipated it being.
I mean, you ask a rabbi a question about, I mean, have you seen his book? 1,000 pages? Yeah.
I apparently, so it was not a quick answer, but I was very thankful that it wasn't.
That's so cool.
But basically, like, a lot of this is up to interpretation, similar to, like, judges interpreting laws and things, and that's what
Islam
rabbis
too.
would, and But then another thing that I said, well, maybe you could come back on and we could talk about in the next appearance you do. A question that I have is like, are you guys like rabbis? Are you thinking about how do you deal with in the future, probably not too far off, what happens when we've got like robot strollers and
yeah.
all this autonomous, like, how are you going to deal with that?
And what
are
he
the
say?
rules? Well, we didn't get to that.
Got it. That was for the next agenda for next. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I said I will come and shovel snow for you, and he never
Thanks,
called.
but no thanks. Ouch. Okay. Thank you to this honest panel. Palestine would be a free, peace-loving place for Christians, the Muslims, and the Jew Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Thank you. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, this was a great show. Thank you so much to everyone, and we will see you next week, right?
Yep.
If not before then, if not first, the special chat.
Yep.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
I did everything right and they indicted me. And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!